of entrepreneurship, you're presented with a world of possibilities along with a world of challenges. Join Joel Lewis as he interviews successful entrepreneur dads sharing how they made it work from the start. This is Startup Dad HQ.
Welcome to Startup Dad Headquarters, where we're exploring the intersection between fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and life. I am your host, Joel Lewis, and today, Startup Dad's Backstage, I have a guest whose story will truly inspire. My guest today is Julien Marion. Julien is a husband, dad of three, speaker, teacher, and coach in the areas of entrepreneurship, business growth, fitness, and personal development. He is also the founder and owner of Move Dance and Fitness, a dance and fitness center in Houston, Texas. The path to the path to unlimited, a weekly podcast with a mission to empower and inspire millions to live without any limits. I'm so excited to talk about that. The podcast is launching November 1st, 2014, so in just a couple of days. Julien is passionate about using all that God has given him to lift the lid off people's lives by adding value and serving others. I just gave you a little bit about Julien. Why don't we go ahead and welcome him in and get a little bit more about him. Hey, Julien, how's it going?
Amazing. Love to be up early.
Yes. It's 6:30 over here. What time is it 5:30 on your end?
Yeah, there you go, 5:30.
Nice. So I just told the audience a little bit about you and your business. Please take a minute and get us up to speed with what you have going on right now. We see you're currently in your dance studio. So why don't you share with us about that? And I know you also work at a college as well.
Oh yeah, like Grant Cardone say, you got to hustle when you're my age, millennial generation. So I'm 28, have two kids, a third one on the way due in December. And I have big goals and I feel like God gave me a lot to share, but that means that I can't just sit down and wait. I got to go and hustle. So I still do work full time. Own and operate a dance studio. My wife is here most of the time. I also teach business courses. I actually teach adults, at a university, and teach fitness classes, teach hip hop classes, and the podcast, that's launching November 1st. Where I thought that since I'm teaching and I'm preaching this message of an unlimited life, I felt like I could duplicate that and really go more broad and really reach a larger audience. So yeah, we're in the studio right now because if I were to do this at the house, my two little ones would most likely be up right now.
Right. Yeah, we were talking earlier, and I was telling Julien how my three girls are sleeping. My wife just left to go to work, and my three girls are sleeping right now. So trying to keep it quiet, so so they don't wake up in the middle of this interview. So you say you have a third child coming in December?
I know, right? My wife has that objective of all the kids out the way by 30, so.
Nice, that's awesome. So, what kind of teaching do you do? You said you teach adults at a college.
Yeah, I teach business courses. So I teach most of the time their first class is a time management class. It's more of a foundational class to kind of get them back up to speed on college writing, structuring your time, and all that kind of stuff. Which again goes with the message of the path to unlimited, as far as one being resourceful, using your body, to kind of take care of stress, using your space, using your network, all that kind of stuff. And I also teach business policy, which is the last class they take when they have to run their company and compete on an international level. And then I teach entrepreneurship, which was actually the first class that I taught because I'm so excited about entrepreneurship in general and where it's going. As far as micro businesses, the medium-sized businesses, small businesses like mine, I really feel this is the future. So teaching that as well.
Awesome. So I definitely want to come back to some of that and some of your expertise on some of those subjects as we get into the podcast. But I always like to start the podcast with what I like to call family first. There's a quote that I was inspired by that goes, "No other success can compensate for failure in the home." Right? So you have a lot going on outside of the home as well as inside the home. And, as entrepreneurs, we want to make sure that, the things that we're trying to do, the things that we're trying to build doesn't necessarily or doesn't impact what we have going on at home. And with a wife with a third on the way, I'm sure you're always conscious of that. So let's, I asked you to submit a family fun photo. Let's go and take a look at that photo, and you share with us a little bit more about the family end of things.
Okay.
All right. So you gave me 5 photos. I was only able to get 4 of them in, so apologize if hopefully I didn't leave anyone out.
No, it wasn't there.
All right. Awesome. So you got some wonderful photos going on right now. Why don't you start with the one, let's see, upper left there with the swing set. What's going on there?
Yes, so the little one there that is smiling, or it's my son Liam, and he is 4. And that's back when we did it again. We just shaved his head, and oh yeah, he loved it. He loved to have the being on the swing, and this is actually at the house. And this is pretty much his life. He goes 100 miles per hour, very independent, and that's what I'm trying to teach him more of that, being independent, right? You see something you want to learn, go ahead and learn it. Don't always ask for permission, because I don't want him to be restricted, by me or by his mom. But at the same time, keeping it at a level where, I don't have to always clean up behind you.
Right.
But he's very independent, so I'm excited to see what he has going on in the next couple of years. Then on the bottom, that's my daughter Adriana, and she is 2 now. She doesn't look like that anymore, but that was the funniest picture, because she seemed to have taken a little bit more from her dad.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, she is so funny, a dancer, really a dancer. Mommy is so proud that she's kind of following her footsteps. Since she was little, she's always being on her toes, like really high on her toes. And she's full of energy, a fighter. And then top right, that's me and my wife. And we met since college. And she was a dance major. I play basketball. And and life kind of just put us together. And on the bottom right, that is mommy and her kids. She loves her kids. She loves being with them, and that's how we're trying to get Riva Studio up to a level where she can spend a little more time with the family. But like any startup, it takes a lot of hustling in the beginning, and you kind of lose that touch with your kids in the beginning.
Yeah. Nice. So you said mom works at the studio pretty much most of the time?
Yeah, pretty much. She is here. She's here pretty much full time. And it's been a crazy journey where we had to reposition our business in the early stage, and but she's here. She's here, and she's going really strong.
Yeah.
Strong mom.
Yeah, awesome. So, Julian, we talk about at Startup Dad headquarters, we want to get into the entrepreneur side of things, but beforehand, we want to talk about the fatherhood side of things as well. Now, you're a dad of 2 with 1 on the way. What do you think is the most important part about being a dad?
I really think leadership, right? Leadership, I think, is one of the most important, especially working in a business with your wife. That line between being a husband and also being a business partner is a very fine line. It's a very fine line, and my wife, she's really good at keeping things separate sometimes, right? She's really good at saying, what, this is the home, this is the business, and there's a distinct line. Whereas me, everything is kind of blurry. From my job, I'm assistant director of admission. That means it's a sales job, and I also teach. which means it's more, of a teaching coaching job. I mean, most of the people that I'm in touch with, I want to give everything that I have, right, to my students, to the people that I recruit, to the customers here. Thanks for me. Sometimes if you email me at 11 and I get 11 p.m. and I get your email, I'm not responding to your email on the phone, right? Just because I'm like, hey, this is, I want to wow you. I want to get you the experience. You're like, whoa. I know business is, as usual, it's usually 24 hours or something like that, but this guy responded within 2 minutes. So, I love to do that. But as far as being a dad, yes, you have to be able to really show leadership. Keep on encouraging, the family that, hey, yes, we're still on the right path, right? We're still on the right path. We're still going where we're supposed to go. So for my wife, keep on showing leadership for my kids because they're constantly looking at you to see how do you interact with mom, how do you, do things at the house. So, I'm getting more into really understanding, what it takes to be a good leader, which is not just, okay, let me be, strong and move forward, but really being compassionate. And it's something that I have to really work on as far as having that, working on empathetic listening and really being vulnerable and understanding to how people work. And especially being a dad, it's not the easiest
Right.
to do that. But especially at 28, I've seen a lot, because I was born and raised in Africa, in the Congo. Then I moved to Belgium, then California, Mississippi, and Texas. So I've seen a lot of, a lot of people, and a lot of different, way of life. But at the same time, being a dad and going business with your wife, your leadership is tested 24/7. So the number one I would say is probably leadership is the most important one from being a dad.
Yeah. Now, how do you manage your time with with everything you have going on? How do you manage your time with the kids?
Great question. Wake up early. My son is up early, and this is like at this time, if he wasn't up with me last night till 10, he would have been already up, and he would have been here with me. That's one of my big thing is, in the beginning I was like, oh no, go back to bed, go back to bed. You should be up this early. But now I'm like, well, no, you know what, you up? Okay, let's go, right? So now I'm taking him with me. When I'm working people out, he is there working out with me or with them. Whenever I'm doing something that has to do with the studio, he is there with me. Because I feel like, when he was a baby, he was with me everywhere. Like, we would always go together. If I go somewhere to the store, he's there with me. And now that we have the studio, and he starts, he's a little bit older now, so he understands things a little bit better. I want him to learn. I want him to see so that he can duplicate that, or put his own spin to it. When we go to an event for the studio, I'm letting him go and give flyers to people or things like that, so you understand, rejection. And he got that a couple of times, And we had to explain to him, hey, it's okay. It's not for everybody, but he understands that, and now he faced that, that fear. And to me, I keep on trying to explain to him that fear is one of the biggest, obstacles that people face, because they're thinking of like, okay, that might not happen. It's trying to just like really teach them that. So the way I do it, for my kids is I'm up when they're up, pretty much. I'm trying not to stay in bed and let the kids be in front of the TV and then you go back to bed. No, I'm trying to be there with them. So that means sometimes they're up at 4 in the morning and they don't want to go back to bed. Hey, there we go. The day starts at 4 in the morning. And I usually start early because, I work out in the morning. So if they're awake with me, they're here working out.
Yeah.
If they're not, then I'm working out by myself now.
Yeah, that's so cool that you're bringing him in with you into the workplace, right? I mean, because technically your gym is your workplace, and you're able to, because you own it, it's your place. You're able to bring him with you and have him actually see dad at work, right? So it's almost like I work at Intel, corporation. That's where I work currently, and once a year we have like bring your child to work, right? And they kind of could sit around and we're in a little tiny cubicle and they're kind of seeing what dad does a little bit and kind of experience it. But you have the opportunity to actually bring him in on multiple days, and probably some of your students are getting used to him being around and interacting with him. How was that whole experience? Do you find that he's getting in the way at all at any point in time, or?
I mean, I think for mom, a little bit more. He gets in the way to a certain extent, right? The kids, whenever they're young, because the way they see life is different than you and I, right? They see like as an open playground. I can run everywhere, yell everywhere,
Right.
and if you have a call, on the phone and they're here, sometimes your kids think that no, I go, first. So I'm like, hey, 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 regardless of if you're talking to a customer, somebody's touching your leg, or trying to jump in, it's a little bit challenging sometimes. But the beautiful thing is, the most of the people that we have here are parents as well, right? So they understand that they went through the same struggle as you. So I think in the beginning, I know my wife was having issues with that, expecting everything that has to be perfect. But she's a perfectionist, being a dancer.
Right.
You heard her trying to come as close to perfection as possible, right? So she wanted to just have no, it has to be quiet, but at the same time, it's like, hey, people understand, right? Like if you and I are here and your kid come down, like I understand, I have kids, right? And as a dad, you can tune out people, you can tune out your kids to a certain extent.
Right.
And only parents understand that, like people that are not parents, like how do you do it? Like they make noise and you can still have a conversation.
Right.
And so that happens, and now people, they're there, the kids are talking a little bit, so sometimes I would just put my hand on his face, and just say, hey, just wait, and just talk, but still, like, it doesn't really change the way I talk. I just, I can just really keep my hand on his face until like I'm done talking, and then, grab him closer, and say, hold on, and so there's not really any problem. But when we work out, or when I'm in there with a student working out, I will make him work out with them.
Mm.
They're next to them, and they love it. They love it too, because he's 4 years old, but he is pretty coordinated and pretty strong for a 4-year-old. So he challenges them sometimes. I'm like, hey, if he can do it, he's 4, then you got to step up.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I have. Right now. I'm in my home office, and a lot of times the girls will come down during an interview, and I'm kind of like, I can see them through the glass, and I'm usually like kind of waving them off, like, no, don't come in, but they're coming anyway, and it's like, oh, hey, these are my kids right here. So
it makes you more human, right? I mean, this is who you are. You're not perfect, and I think if we try to do that, then we add the stress level. The stress level starts to increase. So I keep on telling my wife, I was like, hey, we have to be able to like relinquish control there, right? And really think of it as a river flowing through rocks, right? If you try to contain it, if you try to block it, like no, don't come water. Guess what? What happens? The pressure builds up, the pressure builds up, the pressure builds up, the pressure builds up. And if your barrier is not strong enough, when it comes in with the vengeance.
right.
You just sometimes gotta let it flow through, right? Let it flow through, contain it just a little bit or direct it somewhere, but let it flow through. And I think that has helped a lot, in the past month.
Awesome. So Julian, let me ask you this: besides throwing out the trash, what's one other chore you own at the house?
What do I want to do that? That's it. One at the house. I'm trying to think. One at the house. Definitely the budget. The budget. That's the big thing. And at the house and at the studio. Because I try to take away that stress
Mm-hmm.
from my wife as much as possible. Because I know that whenever we start the studio, we go more in depth as far as like how we started, how it came to start, but pretty much we went from 2 income to 1 income. And instead of just say, oh yes, let's find another job for you, I just started a business, right? Which is now going to year number 2. It's still personal finance is very tight. Your business finance is very tight because you're a startup. So living in a startup world, it is, an interesting journey. So you want to take away that kind of like stress of knowing, how to sometimes like stagger bills and you know what I mean, and stuff like that. For some, it is really stressful. And for some, marriage, that's one of the number one reason people, don't stay together because the finances are too tight and we both have two different money blueprints, as far as like what we need to do. So that is a big one, and I feel like God definitely gave me the strength to be able to not be stressed, about things like that.
Yeah.
But understand that, hey, you will grow through it, and this is when now you'll be able to manage that because, I mean, I'm pretty sure, your corporate job, you have a lot of risk. You have a lot um, of those financial risk where depending on what you do, either you're going to lose a lot of money, right, or it's going to be very tight, and you have to make the call on what needs to happen at what timing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't want to take that. They don't want to be responsible for the money,
Right.
So that's I think that's the biggest one I'm responsible for. But obviously, the lawn. We have an electrical, lawnmower. She hates it, so she said, if it was a gas one, she would do it. This is a cord that I have to
Oh man, that's painful.
go back and put the cord around again.
I wouldn't do it if I was her either.
I know, we live in Texas, so people are kind of like, electrical. But, whenever my dad, whenever I asked him, I said, hey, which, a lot more should I buy? He's like, oh, get an electrical one. So I just said, okay. But looking back, maybe I should have, maybe a gas one wouldn't be too bad right now.
Yeah. Nice. So Julie, now we know a bit more about you and what you have going on right now. And with this being Startup Dad headquarters, it's time we talk about your start, right? I like to refer to this as the true Startup Dad story. And one of my favorite quotes is, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Now, take us back to the beginning and share with us your initial steps on your Startup Dad journey, which I believe you said was just about 2 years ago.
Yeah, so December 2012, actually the 31st of December 2012, right? My wife gets called, or should I say, is it call? Call or text? One of those two. And to meet with at that time she is a director of a dance studio, not too far from where we are now, and she gets called to say, hey, we want to meet with you, and then we're in the car, I have with the kids in the car just waiting for her. She goes to a meeting, comes back crying, and I just like go on the stand. I'm like, okay, what happened? She tells me, okay, they wanted to kind of decrease my hours pretty much. And at that time, I think 2 months before that, we had just bought our first home. Right, so that means that a lot of your savings would go into that, and she had bought her first car, so that means again because she's been at the same job for 2.5 years, she is the I guess quote unquote expert pretty much, at that place. She set up the entire dance program and everything. She's a director, so you don't really see that happening. It's like, oh, and now you pretty much go from 2 income to 1 income with a new house, a new car payment, starting the new year. So you start from almost zero, should I say from minus, on the new year. So it's kind of like, and again, as a dad, you have to be strong into your leadership. That hey, it's okay, that means there's a reason for that. Let's just try to really see, quote unquote, like where did we mess up? Where did we mess up? And you really evaluate quickly and see what needs to be done. So we start to really, go through that process of, oh yeah, before that also, sorry, 2 weeks before the meeting, we were expecting our baby number 3, and we lost that baby. So it's kind of like, uh-oh, now, you're grieving a job, you're grieving a baby, and you have to bounce back quickly because, especially in nowadays, you don't have time to really sit down and just, oh, for me, because you'll be behind on your bills or whatever else, and it goes quickly. So as a dad, as a leader, I have to kind of just, get everybody together and say, hey, let's look at what the next step is. What can we take off that we don't need? And the first thing was cable. And I know people were, the house was upset a little bit about that, but I was like, what, we don't really need that, And eventually, yes, till these days, we don't have cable. right? We have Netflix, you know, and Hulu, and it's perfectly fine. It's like TV on demand. So again, we're removing one of those distractions that kind of takes us away from being together or from picking something together, you know? So January 13th, we start to really, actually even before that, but January 13th, we start to really write down business plan for the studio, you know? And that all came out with my dad saying, you know what, I will invest maybe in a small studio, right? At that time, we didn't know what a small studio meant, you know, anything like that. We just said, okay, sure. We started this opportunity.
So at this point, this is the first time you guys are thinking about actually?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's January 13th, 2013. So that's like, what, 13 days after.
Right.
You know? So we go through that, start to put the stuff together, the business plan, looking at different things. You know, she just went through a startup for a dance studio, so we knew that you know, kind of how it looked. Obviously not from a financial standpoint, but how it looked as far as everything else, the whole setup of a studio. So went through that, started looking at different places, and saw that, wow, you know, this might not happen because it takes a lot of money, more than we have available to get it going. And I'm international, so that means my credit history is not long. It's not long, right? And I'm 28, so it's not long and short, you know. So we kind of had to go through that and say, okay, well, you know what? Still the same mindset of I'm not going to put any limits, you know, because for me, I believe in life, we either put limitations on ourselves or accept limitations from others. So I say, you know what? We're not going to put any limits on what God can do. Let's just keep on moving forward. And we saw a couple of locations, but it was way, way out of our league, you know. It was like, wow, I don't even know how people can make it, you know, with brick and mortar business, because it's really expensive. We got everything ready. We looked at a location that was perfect, that was only 15 minutes from the house, which was this location. But at that time, the landlord wasn't giving that much TI, which is tenant improvement, right? Because we're first generation tenant, which is the best kind of deal that you can have if you can find one, because you can build a space the way you want it, and you have more money given to you. But at that time, it was not a lot of money. It was like, okay, you know, I think it was something like only $30,000 that we were given. And like, you know, you can't build anything with $30,000 with $30,000. Right. You know, so I remember going to church and I had this message. You know, I go to a church called Lakewood. It's a big church in Houston. And the speaker there was talking about giving birth to your idea, right? And how in any kind of a, you know, pregnancy, the end is whenever, you know, again, I've never been pregnant, right? But I've been around pregnancy, so I'm gonna give my expertise on that. You know, the mom wants the baby out. You're like, I'm done. You know, I've been doing this long enough. I'm done. Right. But not ready yet. Like almost there, but it's not ready yet. So you have to just, those couple more months are so important in the development of your kid. And if you think of it in the business standpoint of your ideas, like, yes, you're almost there. You're almost there. You want it to come out. Like you're excited. You want to launch. You want to get it out. But the next couple of months are maybe the most important one. And we're talking about signing even a commercial lease. It's a very scary thing sometimes, you know, to look at, because it's a 5-year commitment, personal, you know, guarantee that you're putting on, you know, and there's a lot of horror story if you really dig deep, which I try as much as possible, never trying to research stuff too much, because I feel like, you know, my experience and my blessings are different than other people's blessings, so I'm not going to go deep and try to say, okay, how did, you know, how can we mess up here? You know, I'm trying to say, you know what, hey, I'm not going to put all those negative thoughts in my head. I'm trying to stay focused on what we want to accomplish and really approach it almost with, I'm not going to say with being naive, but with just like having that kid's faith, right? Child's faith is like, you know what, I believe that this can happen, right? Believe that I can have a studio with not the best personal finance, not the best, you know, credit, but still have it, and without putting that much money in, right? Staying focused on that. So came in, you know, talked to the landlord. Then we didn't really see eye to eye. Heard that message. So you know what? We're just gonna let it go. Walked away. Said, hey, God, if you wanted this to happen, it will happen. Then around mid-March, we connected with the landlord, talked about different things, trying to see how things were. Nobody was in this location again, because, you know, being a first tenant, right, is the most important one for any build. because people are looking. Nobody likes to always be the first because they don't know who is going to be next to them.
Right.
So you never want to be the first. So we came in, talked again. He tripled, they tripled how much they were going to give us. So now it took us, from that to now 6-figure to be able to build, which is a big difference.
Okay.
Some people are like, wow, you're a master negotiator. Like, I don't know if I was or not, but I believe it was a blessing, to be able to have it. So we came in.
So this was a new building that he had multiple spaces. Is that what I'm getting?
Correct.
And you were the first tenant out of like 3 floors or 3 spaces or something like that?
First tenant out of, I want to say 7 space.
Okay.
And we took 5,000 square feet, which is a lot. 5,000 square feet in the corner. So very first tenant to move here. And from us, it pretty much kind of kicked off the rest of the tenant that came in, because like, okay, there's a dance and fitness studio here. Here is the owner, because people like to know who their neighbor is going to be.
Yeah.
If you're a good neighbor, hey, there's a chance that other good people will come in.
Right.
So this is very important. So we came in, talked. Yes, he increased 3 times. We had to negotiate. I remember that was like me, my wife, and then 3 other people. And did my research as far as what is important on commercial lease. And I really trying to have a win-win-win with all of us. Not me trying to take advantage, but making sure that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
And I understood that the passion that we had, the expertise that my wife and I had, and they believed in us as well. That we could make it happen, because obviously we hustle. And signed a lease in April. I remember really, the landlord coming to our house and signing a lease and shaking my hand, and I remember shaking his hand, and it was like, and now it made it real. It made it really real. That okay, now we need to go. And then so January business plan, April signed the lease, August open the door.
Wow.
Right? So and I was talking to people because I was doing like a soft launch almost, right? Whenever I signed the lease, I started just saying, hey, no, January I started saying, hey, we might start a studio. My wife started working on the logo that you see oh, this way that you see in the back. She did that, and then Facebook page, start to share with all of our connection, explain what's going on. They all were excited because they knew the story as well, what had just happened. And people just love that kind of just like bounce back mentality, that you're not just like upset or bashing the other people. And my wife, if you ask her the story, she will always say, what, we're so blessed to have the chance to just work with the other studio, and they have to do what they have to do. Whenever you're one of the person that gets paid the most, but you're not the owner, it's just kind of the way it is sometimes.
Yeah.
Even now when we see payroll is a huge chunk. You have your rent, and then you have payroll, and it's a huge chunk, So, but what it did is it pushed us to kind of start this. So it was really, a blessing, in disguise, because you're like, okay, this is what came out of it. So August we started the studio with 2 students, 2 guaranteed students only that came from the other place, and then we started hustling, and finished the first year with I think 80 students, I believe. 80 students.
You opened in August with 2, and by the end of the year you had 80 students?
Yeah, end of the year. So end of the year for us would be like May.
Okay.
So ended up with 80 students, and the big concept behind the studio was I'm all about fitness. She's all about dance, which is the reality. We really live it. We don't just talk about it, but we live it. This is me, And so I was like, I'm gonna do the fitness side. You do the dance side. It'll be perfect. And then as soon as we started the studio, a CrossFit moved next door to us, like literally next door to us.
Oh no!
It was like, okay, but I teach entrepreneurship, so I understand, repositioning and things like that. Okay, it's fine. We just have to reposition quickly.
Yeah.
And still staying true to our brand and what we, we want to do. So what we did is we introduced bar fitness, which is a form of fitness, but is more catered towards women now.
Yeah.
The downside of that is that my wife was the one teaching it. So now she was teaching the dance and she was teaching the fitness, which was not the original deal, that me and her had. My wife, she's very black and white. There's no gray. It's like, this is what we agree. This is what we agreed on. So that was a big thing that we had to do, and we had to do quickly, because at that point you're protected for one business, which is dance, but you're not protected for fitness. And the other business, this is their core business, is fitness. Right. So me doing the boot camp and stuff like that, I wasn't asking necessarily to stop, but I couldn't really go in and trying to compete directly with them. Because one, it's not fair, and we all work together here, right? But it was still like a blow, like, uh-oh. Now we have to like see what we're going to do quickly. But I still train kids here, but I don't go out and just like say, hey, I'll do this too cheaper. It's just like whoever families come in and they know me because I work out and I work some kids out, then they ask me, hey, can you work with my kid? Can you work with my son? And that's like another portion now that I've started, which is more of a leadership academy that I have here, which is because I believe the way you can, especially target kids, is to work on their body first, and that gets you an in, into their life. Then you can talk about different principles, the Christian principles, and really help understand what's going on in their life and how you can best help them and help them grow so they can mentor other kids or be leaders in their community. But it all starts, for me, I believe it all starts with the way you take care of your body. You feel good, you feel strong, your chest is like this, right, because you've been working out, your muscles are tense. Then it's a different perspective that people have on you. Right. The kid that is like, shoulders are down like that. You do it on purpose, but because he plays this video game like this all the time, his shoulders are naturally going like this now. Right. And people perceive that as like, oh, he might be weak or he's not confident, and so you're trying to really change that. And so far, the kids I've been working with, you can see the difference in the way they talk, the way they walk, the way they act. So it's really exciting to see that happening. Yeah.
You got me wanting to sit up straight now. I feel like I'm slouching. I gotta sit up straight now.
There we go. It takes a couple push-ups. Just a couple push-ups in the morning, and your chest is.
right. Now, you take us back. You mentioned about initially getting $30,000, and then it went up to $90,000. What is that? Give us a little bit more details around that. Is that a grant, a loan? What is that exactly?
That is what if you think of just building in general, right? Whenever there is commercial build, okay, the landlord or the investors are all part of the development. Have so much money available that they got, right? Which has to take care of the taxes, has to take care of improvement on the building, and they have a certain dollar amount that they said this is what we'll use. Right? As a first generation tenant, usually you always have a tenant improvement. Right? If you come in as a second generation, that means everything is there and you have to remodel. You may or you may not get money. But as a first generation, there is money available because the landlord has money from the bank. And that all depends on what else they have planned out for the building. Right? And that affects them to some extent because they can't offer the same deal to the next person. So that's very different. They can't always offer the same thing to the next person, and it affects. For us, it was a lot of different things. Like we're willing to pay more per month to have more capital up front. Whereas maybe the next one they were not necessarily willing to do that. Right? They'd rather have like a low rent because they have more money that they could put up front. For us, we just didn't. But still keeping it, making sure that we understand. Hey, we can't pay more than this per month. And that's pretty much what it is. So, yes, it's money that they have available, and this is where negotiation come in, right? Because they have this pool of money, and either it's going to be divided equally, or maybe someone might have a little bit more, but their rent might be a little bit higher. Somebody else, their rent might be a little bit lower, and they have a little bit less. All that is negotiable, pretty much, and that's one of the big things that I've grown and understand, that a lot of things is negotiable, and you can bargain a lot more than people think. Like the price that is set is never the price that's set, right? Because you understand margins, and and it's all by explaining, hey, this is where we are right now in our business. And this doesn't mean that this is going to be the forever price that we're going to pay you, but we just all want to grow. And if you believe in us and you believe in our business, you understand that we will grow, right? and we will, and we will pay more. But this is just where we are currently.
Yeah. And that was the besides that money, was there any kind of grant or loan or anything like that? Or that was a loan actually?
It wasn't a loan because we don't repay that back.
Okay.
So it was pretty much just money that the landlord put in. You know, also because this is their building, so they want to make sure that it is also built, to a high quality as well. So it's an improvement that they make on their building as well.
Gotcha.
So, and we went, with their kind of like their company as well, as far as the building company. So it kind of just like tied all that stuff in versus having them just say money is here, get an exterior, an outside company to come in. We kind of work within their own structure, their own network that they had.
Okay, that's good. Now, so you had this situation that happened December 31st, 2012. Your wife was a director. You had 2 children, just lost one. Sorry about that, by the way. And instead of saying, hey, just go find another job as a director, you guys decided to start a business. How was that decision made? I mean, how did you guys come across that, and why didn't you just go and get another job?
Well, you have to just think, right? You have 2 kids at that point, right? Any job that you're going to have, let's say if you were to get just like an office job for her, most likely you are going to pay for someone to watch your kids. Right? That's just what it is. You're going to pay for someone to watch your kids, and you might just bring like a third or a fourth home.
Mm-hmm.
And her expertise, and she's amazing at it, is dance. But at that time, you're going to the second half of the season, and there's not, you didn't have a lot of sub job, meaning you're a substitute teacher almost, but there's no more really full-time teaching job at that time. And again, parenthood is a little bit different, and just with that, it's like, yeah, you're not going to go and pay someone to watch our kids.
Yeah.
We didn't really have family at that time, around or at the house with us. They could just say, hey, you watch the kids whenever, I work for free, and then I come home. No, so you have to pay someone. So we just look more as far as like long term, like we want to set ourselves up, and like I said, through other processes, like yes, you constantly, think of it. What about if we would have made this decision? It would have been different. But to me, as far as the entire path, like I couldn't have scripted this like that, right? And I've really looked, I have an MBA, so throughout my MBA program, my goal was like, I want to start multiple businesses, right? That was my initial objective, and I had a specific date. I wanted to do it at the end of 2012. I didn't think that it was going to be like that, right? But it happened. So mentally, I was ready. My focus was towards entrepreneurship. From I'm part of a huge community with AppSumo. I don't know if you're familiar with AppSumo.
I am.
This huge community there, so my mindset is always there. So whenever that happened, I reached out to Noah, the CEO and founder of AppSumo, and we talked about different things, and and at that time I was joining, one of his programs was called monthly 1K, so going through that, but for a different, like I said, totally different kind of a business that was validating. When that happened, it was like everything moved fast. I validated fast. We redid the garage for $1,000 to get people coming in. We posted on Craigslist. People started coming in, and we started to get that momentum going. Get the Facebook page going, and all that started to really go. And once we had the momentum, then everything really was moving. And so yeah, that's the path that we picked, right? Called Path to Unlimited. This is the path that we picked. I said, hey, let's go this one. I feel we can do it.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting because AppSumo, right? You're talking about online business. You're talking about like development and selling a online product or software, right? And you go into a brick and mortar, which is, it's a very completely different, mindset, different way approach. I mean, I try to tell, because I work with small businesses now, and I try to tell a lot of them, hey, you still need to have you absolutely need to have an online component to your brick and mortar business, right? If that means social media, if that means collecting email addresses, because I have a coworker who actually owns a gym as well, and and we've been going through this process and saying, listen, you need to have an online component of your business, and it can't just be business as usual or business as it used to be years past.
And if you look on the map, right? If you look on the map, let me if I can show you. If you look on the map where we are and you type dance studio, it's exciting to see because you see there's a lot of competition. I mean, a lot of competition, right? So we didn't necessarily pick the easiest, kind of industry because there's a lot of competition. So that means that, yeah, there's no such thing as business as usual. There's no such thing. And here we are. It's like one of the fastest growing location, I would say, in the United States, right? The KD full share, it's happening because of oil and gas and the BP, the Shell, the HP. I mean, it's happening here. Growth, like massive growth. So it's like, yes, we came in at the perfect time. And to go back to monthly 1K, yes, I'm probably the only one that out of the program came out with a brick and mortar business, and it really helped me in order to validate cheaply. That's one of the big things with monthly 1K is like, okay, how can you validate cheaply and quickly, and go through those fear of like asking for money, right? And they had like this challenge, where you have to go to Starbucks and ask for a discount. Right? A lot of people don't want to do that. Like, oh no, that's embarrassing, But I did it, right? I didn't ask for a discount. I asked for a free cup of coffee. You have to go through that process of like fear of like, oh, what about they say no, or they reject me, or they look at me like, are you crazy?
Right.
When you face that fear, then you say, oh wow, it wasn't that bad.
Right.
But it's very needed. So going through that really helped me in the negotiation stage. Right? Because I wasn't afraid of them just shooting me down and say, are you crazy? Like, how old are you again? And you ask for this? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's like, if you're passionate, and this is what I believe, if you're passionate about what you're doing, then confidence comes out of it. Right? And people are not going to question whether or not you have the expertise because you're so passionate about it that if you're passionate, you have stories about it, you read about it, so maybe your expertise level increases as well. But it's all about like your passion that you have for what you're doing. So like you're passionate about, podcasting. You're passionate about just like, startup that. So like people are looking at it like, wow, like Joel has expertise in that. Like he knows. And obviously now you start to grow and understand a lot more, out of like what it takes or what the guests have been through.
Right.
You start with your passion for like, oh yeah, I just love this and I've been through this journey and I just want to share it. So my expertise grows because of my passion.
Yeah. So tell us, you brought up fear and kind of, the doubts in there. Tell us about a time, in your 2-year journey now. Have you had any fears or doubts with what you guys had, what you're working on right now?
Doubts? Not really. I never had really doubts. Because to me, I told my wife again. I said, you know what? Hey, if God didn't want us to have this, we wouldn't have it. Because there's no other explanation to like how we, were able to keep on pushing through. Yes, we had a lot of, help, from friends and family, and I have an amazing network, that because, in life I truly believe that you need to add value to people, and I've done that my whole life. I played basketball my whole life, and I've always wanted to add value to people. I always did. If you're around me, then you understand that I'm the kind of person that will always want to keep you honest, motivate you to push forward, and never just sit down and say, oh yes, this is really bad. No, I'm so okay. What can we do, right? Like let's take action now. Mm-hmm. And I've done that for like so many people that I've ran through in my life that now that I'm in this situation, I'm like, okay, I might need this help with this, right? And I'm just sharing that with my network and some of my friends. And people come in and say, hey, yeah, I want to help, right? I love you, I trust you. Yes, I know, because I know your work ethic. I know what you're about. I know that you're one of those person that talks about it and doesn't do. You actually do. If you tell me that you will do this, then you're gonna do everything possible to be able to, either because alone pay it back, right? It's not that. It's not just okay. This guy, he always talks about stuff and never does anything. No, So that's one of the big things. But I remember a time where it was really challenging was, especially in the beginning, it was really challenging. But it was like, okay, I'm looking at personal finance. I think it was like below 3 figures. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think one of the contracts that I had in my teaching didn't come through. So we actually went on overdraft. So we went on overdraft in personal finance, and then something that we were supposed to book for the studio, they were not supposed to charge, but they charged, like the hotel charged the account. So boom, we are negative in that account as well. And that was really challenging because I was like, oh, I'm looking, and again, right? I'm not sharing. I'm not sharing it with anybody. I'm just keeping it to me as a leader. Like, okay, this is where we are, right? We're negative in the personal finance account. We're negative in the business account.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. You know, and you just have to really be focused at that point. So, okay, hey, I'm not going to try and live in la la land. Put in perspective. This is where we are. I'm not going to make it worse than what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, we're going to fail. They're going to take our home. I'm not going to make it worse than what it is. You know, it happens. And a lot of time, you know, your ability to handle risk in situations like that determines your result, right? Very successful people, they deal with a lot more than that when they put their house on the line because they believe in what they're doing so much that it pays off. But they're willing to go all the way in. You know, like I don't believe in going halfway. You know, and that's one of the big things. I'm like, no, I'm not. You know, if we believe in this, then heck yeah. If I need to like sell the car, you know, to be able to move forward, I will do it because I believe in it, and I'm not going halfway in.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think of going halfway, then think of like football, for example, right? If a guy goes halfway for a tackle, was most likely gonna get hurt, right? Basketball, if you're trying to dive for a loose ball, but you kind of want to dive, but you don't really want to dive, and you kind of go, and somebody else comes and dive, boom,
Right.
he's gonna hurt you.
Right.
So, and that's always the thing. If you're not aggressive, you know, like a good aggressive into what you want to accomplish, you will get hurt. You know, so there's like, oh, it's not the time to just slow down, but it's a time to push and be a little more, you know, intentional, a little more aggressive about what needs to happen. You know, and I think at that time, because I got fearful for, you know, a couple of seconds. I looked and I was like, uh-oh, right? Should I start to like, you know, tighten up a little bit? You know, you understand what people feel like whenever they have, I guess, heart attacks, because it's like, uh-oh, you know, neck started tense up. So I had it for a little bit, and I just kind of remember all the different things that I preach and I share with the students, and you know, and I go back to this one verse for me that always kind of just, you know, drives it home. It's Mark 4:40, right? This is when Jesus is walking on water and he talks to the disciple, and he said, like, "Why are you so afraid? You still have no faith." You know, and to me that drives it home. I'm like, oh no, he has done so much for me already. With the way the studio started, with the way he took care of us whenever finances were cut in half, like we made it.
Right.
We kept on moving forward and forward and forward. So I'm like, oh no, this is just a step. This is just a good story to tell, right? There you go.
Yeah.
To tell to Joel, right? Hopefully, it can inspire somebody else who's looking at their finances and say, uh-oh, I made the wrong decision. No, just the closer you are to that break-even point, to that increase, it gets challenging.
It's challenging, right?
Yeah, and you have to talk. And this is when, you know, I didn't shy away from it. Call the bank. Call my landlord. Explain what's going on, right? Say, this is my plan. This is what I would do. And be intentional about it. And say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is what happened, right? I'm not shying away from it, but this is what, you know, I think we should do.
Right.
But I didn't necessarily ask for permission again. People sometimes are like, wow, this is kind of rude. Like, I don't know. It's always been the way I am. I never asked necessarily for permission, but I said, this is what I will do.
Right.
And sometimes the person that has that, you know, that intention and energy towards it, then the other person takes it in and says, okay.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of, you know, kind of what we did. But that was the time that I was really kind of just fearful, actually, the most, because it didn't look good on either way.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, and it's almost like a test. It's like so it's like the universe or something is testing you and saying, like, how bad do you really, really want this, right? And if you really want it bad enough, and if you really have the faith, you know, you got to go through that. You know, you got to go through that test, through the fire, if you will, and then on the other side, you're gonna come out a lot stronger, a lot, you know, able to deal with adversity, right, and make it happen. So yeah, that's awesome, man.
If you want to handle multiple businesses, you know, this is one of the stuff you're gonna go through.
Right.
Where you're gonna have, like I said, stagger some stuff, delay some stuff. But as long as you communicate, and I, you know, stress that to people all the time, is like communicate. Don't think that people know. You know, like the biggest misconception, you know, with communication is thinking that it happened. Like, yeah, I think we talked about it, you know. Like, no, just make sure you talk about it again, you know. And I know that, you know, being a husband and a dad, you hear that all the time. Like,
oh yeah.
and either your wife or your kids and no, you didn't tell me.
Right.
So it's like about repetition. Say, hey, remember had this going on? Remember
Right.
in the schedule.
Right.
Good to have a schedule that everybody can see. So,
Yeah, the big one now for us is my wife is like, oh, I text you. And it's like, oh, okay. I didn't see the text. Like, you texted me like 5 minutes ago. I haven't seen it yet. So.
oh yeah, that's why I tell someone, it's like, sometimes it's like, if you respond to your text message too fast. I can't remember who told me that, and they even share with business. Like, let's say if you train your customers because you respond to them really fast, and you train them that you respond really fast, and now if you don't respond fast, they're gonna think that you're not valuing them.
Right.
Right. So me trying to wow them by responding within a minute or within a second, if I have it, now they might think this is the way it's always going to be done. So if I don't, now they might think that, oh wow, their customer service has decreased, for example. It's the same thing with like, whenever you have that with your wife, it's like, they text you and maybe whenever you have a break, you can answer quickly and you can get on those back and forth. But then now you have a meeting. They still expect you to answer as fast. And like, I'm kind of like at work. I can't really answer that fast, or I'm on an interview. I can't really, and they don't really get it sometimes.
Yeah. So now we talked about fatherhood and we talked about entrepreneurship, and one of the things that's really important with both of those is health insurance. Now, what do you guys do from a health insurance standpoint? Because your wife is not working, a corporate job, and you're working kind of, I guess, part time with the school, and you're also working in the gym. So how are you guys managing that?
So I'm full time. I'm full time with the university. Still full time there. Again, blessed to have the job and to have my boss that works on top of me being there because she understands that, right? So that's pretty much where it comes in, as far as the health insurance, it comes from from that corporate job. But as soon as if we make that transition, and again, the way we are is like I'm able to impact lives where I am because in that kind of mission job, I get people come in and I can really just figure out what's happening in their life. And education is important. Growth is important. A lot of people don't understand that. They don't understand how important growth is, personal development, how important that is. And sometimes you need that guidance, and so I'm able to do that where I'm at, and with the teaching as well. And the teaching came out, this is why I said like you guys are making, because the teaching happened after all that craziness happened. When we started the studio, I was offered to teach.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it's like, boom, you starting this, and then you're starting this as well. So, but it allowed me to like really, one, get more money coming in, and also growing, as a teacher, to understand people, understand how to troubleshoot some of the situations that they're going through, and if you forget about your personal challenges and start to focus on somebody else and encourage somebody else, then most of the time you come out, whatever challenge you have, because you've taken away the me, and you're focusing on the we, or on the them, and then it's just, it's just much better.
All right. So now that we're wrapping up, you've talked about being a teacher, and you talked about kind of doing business courses, and you mentioned time management was one of the things that you teach about. Can you share with us, as we're starting to wrap up here, can you share with us a time management tip that you're using to balance all of this that you have going on between the kids, the working full time as a teacher, and then as well as owning being a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing, or the misconception with time management, is that you need to manage time. I think it's all about priorities, right? There's no such thing as procrastination. And a lot of people say, no, Mr. Julien, how do I do this because I procrastinate a lot? There's no such thing as procrastination. It's important or not important, right? If I say, hey, I need you to be here tomorrow at 5 a.m. Because I have a check for you. You will be here at 5 a.m. You will ask a friend to wake you up. You will do whatever it is because you feel like this is important, right? So that's what it is. It's important or it's not important. For me, being able to be on your podcast is important because I know that my goal is really, You know, to use all that God gave me, right, to just help others. And I feel like this is an important thing. I feel like this can help, you know, someone that is starting, is going through challenges, because your story can really help somebody else. Because we're all trying to look at somebody's story and look at which one is the closest to us, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it might be like, oh, well, Joel has kids, but he's a little bit further. Like, he works for a great company.
Right.
You know, he had more capital to do it. Well, Julian is 28, from another country, didn't have a lot of finances, started a business with no money, right?
Right.
You know, doing 20 million things, you know, and that's pretty much what it is, right?
Right.
Okay, my story is coming closer to his story. So therefore, like, I'm encouraged. Maybe I can reach out to him and just ask him, like, you know what, this is the challenges I'm going through. Like, you know, how did you do it?
Yeah.
Right? To model it to some extent. I know Tony Robbins talks about that a lot. It's like, if I'm somebody that did it and then trying to model them. That doesn't mean trying to copy them.
Right.
Model some of the stuff that they've done, right? And at that point, you put your own twist to it, you change it a little bit, but it's been done. So for me, it's like, you know, as far as time management is, it's either important or it's not important. It's important to wake up earlier. You have to be resourceful. We all have 24 hours in a day. But most people, they sleep, you know, most of those 24 hours. Right? For me, it's like, yes, wake up at 5. You know, I'm finishing a book. I'm actually in the editing stage. It's called 21 Days to Unlimited. And first week is called Being Resourceful, right? Being resourceful, that means use the body that you have, because if you take care of your body is going to be, it's going to allow you to be stress resistant. It's going to allow you to work longer sometimes, right? Your back is not going to hurt. You're not going to have headaches. You're going to be able to do more, right? And that thing is also time. We all have 24 hours, but the way you take care of your 24 hours, the way I take care of my 24 hours, allow me to do more. Look at a lot of CEOs, right? Successful ones. They wake up much earlier than most people, right? Because they take care of some of that stuff. Like, they are proactive with their day. Their day is planned out. They know what they're going to do. That doesn't mean that they're going to achieve all that, right? Mike Tyson always said, everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the face, and then you have to adjust, right? But at least you're proactive, and your mindset is pointed towards that.
Right.
So to me, that's the biggest thing. Important, not important. You know, be resourceful. That means use your body the way it's supposed to be used, and use your 24 hours. And then lastly, it's about also your space, right? Space is the most important thing. And this is where, you know, if you think of dining table, most people dining table is packed with stuff. You know, because this is usually one of the first table that you see when you go in your house. So it's like, if you have $1, this is where it goes, right? And next thing you know, your dining table is full. In the United States, we're blessed to have like a lot of space for not a whole lot of money in comparison to Europe or China or New York, right? I guess, you know, you have like tiny little space and it costs a lot of money. But all that stuff takes mental space. So if it takes mental space, you're losing clarity. You're losing clarity, you're moving slower. Almost like a computer, right? If the computer is full of stuff, your computer is not going to move that fast. That means it's going to take you longer to achieve tasks, right? Versus a clean space. That means clutter-free. That means, yes, those bills that you think you need to keep just in case you get audited by the IRS, you might need to just like scan them and throw them away because you don't need them, right? Do that, then everything falls into place. You know what you need to prioritize on, and then it takes you less time to do them. And then now you're able to be a lot more proactive because you have clarity.
Yeah, man, thank you for that. That's awesome, and thank you for bringing up the point. You know, one of my missions with Startup Dad is that I'm interviewing not these, you know, mega ultra successful entrepreneurs, because sometimes it's very hard for, you know, the dads and startup dads listening in to connect with those individuals. And like you said, my story and your story are different. And by bringing you onto the show, and Dad seeing that your journey just started 2 years ago, yeah, I mean, technically your journey started from the time you started thinking about AppSumo, or when you went to you went to get your MBA. You know, that journey mentally started, but in terms of physically taking action, like, it started, you know, 2 years ago, and you've gotten so far in just that short period of time, you know. And I think, you know, there's going to be a dad who has 2 kids, right, who could connect with your story and say, you know what, if Julian could do it, I could do it as well. So thank you for bringing that up as well. This was an amazing interview, and your journey is truly, truly inspiring. I have one more question for you. This is usually, it's a little bit longer, but it's usually a very powerful, the response is usually very powerful. So on the other side of this broadcast is a startup dad who at this point is fired up and ready to go. He's connected to your story. He wants to take action, but by the time he closes his laptop, turns off his mobile device, next week life comes around, and by next week he's forgotten this entire interview. What would you say to that dad to kind of keep him motivated to take the next step further?
Sure. It's actually a guest that I interviewed on the podcast. Right? She's a fellow podcaster paradiser. Stephanie Burns. She said, what are 3 things that you can do today? So it's called the rule of 3. What are 3 things you can do today that can move you forward? Move you closer to your goal. Like right now. Like you finish listening to this. What can you do? 3 things. Get a piece of paper. Write 1 period, 2 period, 3 period, and then start. And write those 3 things and then take action. And that might be something as small as if it is buying the domain name, right? If it is reaching out to, if you want to start a podcast, if it's reaching out to a guest, as simple as that. But you do that, you start to build momentum, right? And if you know anything about momentum, it is the hardest thing. It takes the most energy. Just like a train or an airplane, right? It spends most of its fuel or energy in the beginning to get to speed. Mm-hmm. But when a plane is up, oh yeah, that's what's called cruising. they are cruising. They're not spending that much, energy. Same thing with the train. They're not spending that much energy, and it's usually easier to accelerate than it is, to start back.
Yeah.
So now you're fired up, awesome. Now boom, now move. 3 things you can do today. Rule of 3. 3 things you can do today. Shout out to Stephanie Burns. 3 things you can do today to move forward, towards your goal.
Thank you. So Julien, thank you for your time, for sharing your startup journey, and for a truly inspiring episode. Please take a moment and share any final words, and then we'll say goodbye. And please plug in your 21 days to unlimited for sure.
Sure. And whenever I talk about that, like, you writing a book? I said, I can't remember who shared that. They say you want to be an quote unquote like expert about something, write a book about it. Yes, it is like giving birth. It is laboring. But you have to put those dates out, and I did that. But the biggest takeaway, and it's short, right? I believe life is simple. That's my belief. I believe life is simple. That we make life hard, right? Life is simple, we make life hard, right? So to me, the biggest thing is this: is like accept compliments from everyone, but limitations from no one. Because yes, you have to be able to sit into the compliments, and a lot of people deflect compliments, right? I say, Joel, oh man, I love your podcast. I love your videos; they're amazing, man. I think you're gonna make, you're gonna change the world, And you might deflect, oh well, you were a good interviewee. Right, you deflecting the compliment, right? Instead of just saying, no, stay in the compliment. Thank you. Yes, I work hard. Right, stay in it. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Like you put the time in. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But what it does is like it brings you up, right? And I share that with like the Leadership Academy. It's like, no, people give you a compliment, do not deflect. And I know I've done that before, right? People say, oh wow, your girls, they danced, they were amazing. And the piece you did, they were amazing. And what did I say? Oh yeah, but we're not going to do that piece next year. Right? And I kind of just had that out-of-body experience when I say, oh yeah, no, you deflected that one. So accept compliments from everyone, but limitations from no one. Because really, in life, you either accept, put limitations on yourself or accept limitations from others, right? People are going to tell you can't do things because of whatever circumstances, but most of the time it's because they're afraid of doing it. They're afraid of the risks that can be associated with it, right? But everybody started somewhere, right? I'm pretty sure like now we see, you and the way you are, you're a lot more advanced than the way you started on day one. You did your first video,
right?
But people, they might see it now like, oh wow, no, Joe, but Joe is like he's a master. He has the light correct. He has the beautiful mic. Like, I don't have a mic, Right. They don't know where you started, that you build up to that, So that's where it comes the part of like not putting limitations on you. Okay, he has that, but I might just start with this mic or with my iPhone headphones with the little mic, and then I'll build up to something else. Because if it's great, it doesn't matter where it is. People are gonna love it, and they understand that it's a startup. That means that you're growing, and that community moves with you, right? And as far as being able to reach out to me, you can always reach out to me at either on Twitter, Julien M, and then the number 8, or my email. This is my personal email. It's Julien, that's JULIEN .Marion@gmail.com. And yeah, in the book, the book was all about just putting all the knowledge that I had about just like my path, right, and how to. I feel you can be unlimited, meaning that whatever you can think of, you can do. That's what it means. It doesn't mean like, oh, I can, I can fly. No, that's not what it means necessarily. But it means that whatever you can think of, if it is to start a business, but you don't have the capital, then there's 3 things that you should do. To me, I feel like either the first one is be resourceful. That means, using your time, your money, your time, your body, and your mind, right? Number 2 is be innovative. That means it's like, how can you just like use something differently? How can you come up with a new process, right? Because I think Steve Jobs said it, right? I think he said something like, innovators are leaders. That's what it is, because they're show the way, because they're doing something that other people have not done before. And then people follow them. If you think of the iPad, right? Whenever the iPad came out, people were like, man, nobody wants a bigger phone, right? It's just a bigger iPhone, and people bashed it. But now look, it's everywhere. Actually, the phones are getting, there.
Right.
Number 3 is, get networked, right? So get a network. That means grow your network, your community. And I'm part of amazing communities with AppSumo, with Podcaster Paradise, for the podcast. The other little mastermind that I have, I'm part of communities. And that means that, one, you can encourage other people, which is so important in growth, and be able to, to be unlimited, right? You can also reach out. You can also have mentors that come out of that. A mentor doesn't mean that it's somebody that I call every day, but it's like somebody that I listen to. Like you, Joel, you're a mentor. People, they don't have to necessarily communicate with you to see what you're doing, right? And then now they can, at some point, reach out to you a little bit. And that's how I did even with AppSumo and, and the CEO and founder. I used to just reach out to him just a little bit, right? Just like a quick question about something, and he will respond. But now we kind of have that mentorship, relationship, where sometimes we'll have a little conversation with him about stuff. But it's all part of like that community, and it really allows me to do more than most, because I have those 3 things. I'm resourceful, I'm innovative, and then I have a great network.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Julien. This was again an inspiring episode, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joel.
All right.
Hey Startup Dads, take the next step right now and download your free guide called 9 Apps Every Startup Dad Should Have in His Toolbox. It's only available at startupdadhq.com/free gift. Again, that's startupdadhq.com/free gift. So go download it now, and we'll see you next time on Startup Dad HQ.